Hi, Lawrence LeBrocq. Welcome to Victim to Victory, Triumph Over Tragedy. Today my guest is Lisa Tirrell. She is the president and CEO of Samco. How are you, Lisa?
Good afternoon. I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So tell me a little bit. First, let's start. What is Samco?
Sure. So Samco is short for Scarlet Assets Management Company, which is a private wholly owned subsidiary of Rutgers University. We started Samco, again for short, about 18 months ago, and it was about September of 2023. And really what the thought there was to have a private company that focused on revenue generation for the university. And we started with athletics as our first client. So we took all of the revenue generating items within athletics and we started our own company. And our plan is to start branching out into other areas of the university that we can go out and make as sophisticated as athletics is right now.
Which is becoming very sophisticated.
It is.
It's almost on the level of the NFL or professional sports.
It is.
So good luck with that. So let's tell us, you're a Jersey girl.
I am.
You're from the home state here.
Yes.
So tell us a little about where'd you grow up and tell us about your upbringing.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Point Pleasant Beach. I am a Jersey Shore girl, and all of my girlfriends and all of my family still live in town, so it's amazing to still have kind of where our roots are, and then I'm able to raise my family with my husband here in town. So born and raised, went to Point Pleasant Beach High School, then I went on to Wagner College in New York City. I worked for many, many years at a motel not far from here as a gopher and then a chambermaid, and worked my way up to running the motel. And those kind of values and that work ethic has never left me. I probably started before I even was allowed to work, right. To be honest. It was a family kind of owned motel, a friend of ours in town. When I was working, when I was in college, I still always went back to that motel, and it's very cool. My husband and I, we take drives every morning on the weekends with our kids, and every time we drive past the motel, it just brings back all of these incredible memories of, waking up when I was 13 and 14 years old and cleaning people's rooms, right? I love to make beds even to this day. So it's really pretty cool. But I went on, I worked at the motel, and then I went on to Wagner College in Staten Island. I got a job offer before I entered and committed to Wagner to work for David Letterman. A friend of ours had worked for Letterman. And so I was a working girl in the city from freshman year all the way to senior year. And I had 4 years of incredible experience working in entertainment. And I earned a business degree with a minor in Spanish, believe it or not, from Wagner. And I wanted to kind of get into sports a little bit. And I thought that I could maybe kind of parallel my love for being around people that I learned from the motel. And then really going into Letterman and meeting people from all over the world that were, there waiting in, to see the show and maybe meet one of their famous, one of their favorite actors or actresses. And I said, you know what, I can take this business degree and really kind of parlay it with this love for being around people and sports and entertainment. And that's where I landed at the Lakewood Blue Claws, which is a single A affiliate for the Philadelphia Phillies here in New Jersey. That experience, again, invaluable experience. I spent 10 years there. I was pulling tarp. I was frying hot dogs. I was selling sponsorship. I was selling tickets, sometimes working 120-hour weeks at times. So I went on to work at the Blue Claws for 10 years, and then I arrived here at Rutgers almost 11 years ago. So just over 11 years ago, I should say.
What's amazing is there's some parallels is that, with the work ethic. My father woke me up first day when I was 14 in the summer. You're going to work with me, son. What? Yeah. Here's a pair of boots. Let's go. And
Absolutely.
Right on a construction site, started working at 14. And just working your entire life really instills a work ethic and a dedication and an appreciation for things as you get older.
It does. It does.
Now, moving on to your life now, you have 2 boys, Ty and Duke, right?
Yes.
And now you're a CEO, president of Samco, which is a huge marketing arm of Rutgers Athletics. How do you balance that?
I would be lying if I told you it wasn't challenging, and I also live an hour away from Rutgers, so I like I said, I still live in Point Pleasant with my family. But I think that having incredible support at home, certainly with my husband, with my parents, with my mother-in-law, wouldn't be able to do it. Certainly the school that they go to is fantastic for my 2 kids. Their school's in Seagirt, and they're just getting an unbelievable just kind of patterned. You wake up every morning and you get in the car and you go to school, right? And they've learned that, fortunately or unfortunately, at a really young age, because my husband is a business owner in town, and mom's got to be in the car on her way up to Rutgers every day. But the support, if it wasn't for the support of my family and my friends, there would be no way to do it. And also, I think it's really remarkable, a place like Rutgers, I can bring my kids or my husband to a basketball game. I can bring my kids or my husband to a football game where, maybe mom kind of pops away for a little bit to take care of some work on a Saturday afternoon where we're playing football. But it is challenging, late night and weekends and early mornings and all of those things. But it's been pretty amazing to see kind of the Army that has your back when you're really kind of dedicated to do something.
No, it's great that you have that support at home.
Thank you.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
So being a Jersey girl, you've got a little affection for Frank Sinatra. What's the attachment, or what about Frank Sinatra and his music moves you?
I guess I'm a little bit of an old soul. I mean, I love all music, but my grandfather, he was an FBI agent, and he was based in Newark, New Jersey, had a little time in the Bureau in New York City. And then when he retired, he was the head of surveillance at the Golden Nugget, the original Golden Nugget. When I was growing up, I was fortunate enough in Point Pleasant Beach, where I grew up, my grandmother's house was right behind us, and our backyards connected. And unfortunately, my grandfather passed away when I was just about a year old. And my grandmother would just tell these incredible stories about my grandfather when, he was in the Bureau, and he specialized in, in organized crime. And when he retired, Steve Wynn, who owned the Golden Nugget at the time, he hired him, and my grandfather could sit in the surveillance room and, kind of identify people that looked familiar to him. So we have this, she's been telling these stories, while I was growing up, and really made it feel like I knew my grandfather, because unfortunately I didn't really know him all that well, except for these beautiful stories that she would tell. She would give me a surveillance photo of Frank Sinatra at the craps table. And I didn't really know what it was. I just thought it was really cool. It was a black and white photo, right? Something that I really wasn't used to at the time. And Frank Sinatra. So then she would play me his music. And then she showed me this one framed photo. And it was a headshot of Frank Sinatra, and her maiden name was Murphy, and my grandfather, his name was Sabino Papilio Carone. I mean, straight off the boat. He would call my grandmother Murph. So I guess one day when Frank Sinatra was at the Golden Nugget, my grandfather knew that he was going to go up to the suite at the top of the Golden Nugget because he was performing that night, and he asked my grandmother, "Hey, do you want me to get you something autographed?" And she said, "Yeah, you know what? Let's see if this is actually going to happen." And she said, "Give me a signed photo. Make sure it says for Murph or to Murph, love Frank Sinatra." And sure as anything, he came home with that night, and it's in our house now. And it's probably, when people say if your house ever burned down, what's the one thing that you would grab outside of, obviously, your family, that would be the one thing.
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
I really developed this love. As a matter of fact, when my husband and I got married, we hired a Frank Sinatra singer to do our cocktail hour, which was amazing.
It's very deep because it brings back memories of your
does.
grandfather and your grandmother. That's sweet. That's a great story and memory with Frank Sinatra. There's another attorney that loves Frank Sinatra as well, but he's a competitor of ours, so we won't bring that up.
Yeah. And growing up, too, my family, we had season tickets to the Yankees, and, win or lose, right, they would play New York after the games, and I would make sure that we would stay all the way until the end of the game because all I wanted to do was hear New York.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
So how did that come into play? Did it affect your love of the Yankees when you're working for the Philadelphia minor league team, the Blue Claws?
A little bit. If anything, I actually stopped watching a little bit of baseball because I was working so many home games, and I was following the Phillies, and the last place that I wanted to be during my free time, unfortunately, was at a baseball stadium. So, the stadium, my family had season tickets all the way back from when, maybe late 80s, early 90s. And, the stadium right now, Yankee Stadium, is beautiful, but the old Yankee Stadium, there's nothing that you can compare it to. So I think a little bit of working a lot in baseball and also maybe not feeling the same character that I think the old Yankee Stadium had, the 96 World Series champs with Wade Boggs on the horse. My dad and my brother were at that game. For whatever reason, my mom and I decided we were just going to go shopping instead. So we did not attend that game. But yeah, a lot of really, really wonderful memories of Yankee Stadium. And it's really neat, too, because my time in the Phillies Ryan Howard, Cole Hamels. There were so many rehab starts that came through that some people got traded. Some people got traded to the Yankees, believe it or not, right? There was a lot of crossover there. So you just kind of found yourself rooting for people that you were tracking on for a really long time.
I remember just talking about the old stadium. I used to have season tickets, and I would split them with other guys, but we were first row, upper deck, right above the French's sign. So we were looking right down at the pitcher's mound. And in the old stadium, the upper deck came way out over the first level. So we were like 12 rows back, looking right down. Incredible seats, but the most amazing part was when they were in those championship runs, in the first seat, you would almost get ejected out of your seats because it actually bounced. You were moving, and the people were screaming. It was just a fantastic atmosphere. And then when they moved to the new stadium, your seats were back so far, and I was so spoiled. I was like, I was coaching all my kids in sports. I gave up the tickets. But those are some great memories that you just brought back, because I used to spend those with my father. My dad used to work in New York. I'd meet him in the city, and we'd go over to Yankee Stadium, and he's no longer with us, so it's a nice memory to have. So talk about your career. You started out working 13, 14 years of age. I mean, when you went over to Samco, nobody just handed you that presidency job and CEO. You actually had to earn that?
I did. Listen, I think that when the business itself that was being thought about at Rutgers, right, again, it's a private company. It's not out of the ordinary for schools, colleges, universities to have private companies that are wholly owned subsidiaries. But they went out for a national search, and I was a part of a national search, and I am really, really proud that, mind you, I was actually 6 months pregnant while going through the interviews. So not that I was trying to hide it whatsoever, but there's a new hire. There's someone. I started in September of 2023, and I had our second son the end of October. So I was really only about 6 weeks on the job. And I'll tell you that my last meeting was on Friday, October 20th, before I went out on maternity leave. I think my last meeting, I remember it was with one of our partners. It was with ShopRite. And the meeting ended at about 5:30. One of the women from ShopRite said, "When are you due?" And I said, "Being induced tomorrow at 7 a.m." And she said, "Get out of here." So that next afternoon, actually, after we beat Indiana on the road, we were watching it while I was in labor, which was a good distraction. Right. So, I interviewed, and then obviously was given this incredible opportunity to run this company. And really, we are trailblazing right now in the space of bringing our multimedia rights, sponsorship, licensing, premium hospitality in-house. The pendulum kind of swung back to bringing things in-house when traditionally a lot of those business kind of ventures were outsourced to a third party. So it's really interesting to see across the nation how many people are interested in doing something that we're doing here at Rutgers. And I give a lot of kudos to the folks that are on my board, particularly the chairman of the board. He is incredibly supportive, and really the forward thinking that he had to do this is literally changing the way that people are thinking out at the university level.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah. So you're right on the forefront of the shift.
Yes.
Well, that's great. It's a great company, well run by you and your team. We're happy to be partners with Rutgers and Samco. You guys have gone above and beyond for us, and I hope we're good partners for you. And we'll keep pushing those block R's on our billboards for you as well.
That's right. It wouldn't be a game day without seeing you guys right at the Scarlet Walk, that's for sure. So.
It's fun. So let's talk a little bit about the family history. And I know you've had some challenges in your family, especially with your mom and overcoming her stroke. So tell us a little bit about that and how it's affected your life and your perspective.
Yeah, so my mom, she was a stay-at-home mom growing up, and then when I was about a junior in high school, she said, "You know what? I think I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna go to Monmouth. I'm gonna go get my master's, and you and your brother, you guys are gonna be out of the house." So she went back to Monmouth, and she earned her teacher certification, and she went back, and she was a kindergarten teacher for 20 years after that. She had no health issues. You look at her, she's absolutely beautiful head to toe. You would have no idea that she was at risk, to have any sort of health issues whatsoever. And, one afternoon I got a call from my dad, and she was in the ShopRite in Manasquan, and, she had a stroke. And fortunately for us, She was taken immediately to Jersey Shore, and they were able to give her the gold standard of drugs. It's something called TPA, which actually goes in and reverses the stroke. After many months and weeks of rehab and family support, every morning before I went to work, I would go over there and I would make sure that she was showered, and I would blow dry her hair, and I would make sure that she kind of felt like she was normal again,
Right.
So unfortunately for her, she still can't feel her right side, but she can move it thanks to the, immediate care that she got. And she ended up having a heart condition called AFib, which is the irregularity of your heart beating. And so she went to UPenn after her stroke, and she got that fixed. And it's something that she deals with every single day, but she doesn't drive anymore because she can't feel. So it's affected our family, but certainly the outcome could have been worse. So, and if you put her in a room, she wants no attention whatsoever. So I think even me mentioning it, she probably would be a little embarrassed. But every time, right, she's just so selfless. She would say when I was younger and she had these kindergarten students, and she would say, she's like, my kids they were so bad today. They just didn't listen. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was so good. She goes, no, not you. My kids, my kids in my kindergarten class. And, I would just kind of bust her chops a little bit about that. But she's an incredible woman, obviously raised me and my older brother. And she's an incredible grandmother to her 4 grandsons. We have 2, and my brother has 2 grandsons. So it's been challenging, but I would not have it any other way. I love it's an ability for me to spend more time when she needs to go shopping, right? Or it's an ability for me to spend more time when she needs a ride from physical therapy back home, because my dad is still working. So, I look at it as a glass half full kind of thing, that it's one of those moments where you take it and you think that there's an ability to be a caretaker, but in a way that it just gave you more time to spend together. So
is that the segue into the American Heart Association? Explain a little about what you're doing there and what you're up for and you're running for now, or nominated for, actually.
Yes. So a couple of months ago, I was approached by a gentleman from the American Heart Association, who is a fundraiser for the state. He's actually a friend of my husband's in the surfing community, and he presented me this opportunity, didn't tell me that I was nominated for it yet, and just asked if I would be interested to be a part of the American Heart Association campaign, which is you have to be nominated as a woman of impact for the state. And ultimately, it's about raising awareness for living a longer, healthier life, and really kind of educating yourself, but also educating your community, whether it's your own social media channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of those areas, about maybe someone that sees your Instagram post about getting outside, even though it's cold out in the month of February, getting outside and going and taking a walk, or maybe just just watching what you eat for a couple of weeks. So hopefully I've inspired a couple of people to do that, if not myself. I've certainly been inspired by that, certainly with perhaps some family history with heart issues.
Sure.
So I've been a part of this Woman of Impact campaign. It ran for 9 weeks. It actually ended last night. And I have received just an incredible amount of support, not only from the corporate community that I interact with every single day, family, friends, and just people who have kind of come out of the woodwork, to be honest, to support even, as little as, a small donation, all the way up to table sponsors and things like that, and all doing it for my mom.
Right.
So.
And giving back,
Yes.
not only to your mom, but to the entire community. For people that don't know, it could be 12 degrees in New Jersey in February, so it's not easy to get a walk. And if anybody here has an Italian background like Lisa and I have, it's not easy to eat healthy all the time with the Italian family, between the lasagna, the brujol, and everything else that is served. Especially that Italian cheesecake is a weakness for a lot of people.
That
so
is definitely a weakness.
Eating right and exercising is so important. Now, a couple fun topics. We have to dispel a few things. If people don't know, Point Pleasant Beach is on the beach in New Jersey, and it's a gorgeous beach. You have a great boardwalk down here, very family friendly, and then you have a show like the Jersey Shore. So can we dispel those rumors about what the Jersey Shore is really like, and tell people how beautiful, and just give us a background of what it's like growing up at the Jersey Shore?
Yeah, 1 square mile, Point Pleasant Beach, and it's funny. I know I brought up my husband, and he's actually here, but so I am from Point Pleasant Beach. he is from Point Pleasant.
There's a
I was a
difference.
Garnet Gull, and he was a Panther. So first of all, and we live in Point Pleasant, so our kids, when they are growing up, we are going to have a very, very hard discussion amongst myself and my husband about if our kids are going to be Panthers or Garnet Gulls. But yes, Point Pleasant Beach, all kidding aside, Point Pleasant Beach is absolutely one of the most incredible places, I think, on the East Coast, if not the country. I had a very close friend of ours get married in Montauk this year. And my husband and I, we took the trek. We had our 2 kids, my mother-in-law, my parents were in another car, and we all went out to this wedding, and beautiful, beautiful place. And then we got back and we were driving through, Point Pleasant and Bay Head the next day because we do our morning drives. And we're like, this compared to Montauk, this place is so much better, right? And I think the population going to school, in the fall, winter and spring, I think the population in town, quadruples, at least when I was growing up, it quadruples from, renters or seasonal folks. So my graduating class, I think, had 72 kids in it. So times that by 4, we had less than 300 kids in our high school. But when I got to college, I didn't realize that not everybody grew up at the beach, right? I had friends from the middle of Pennsylvania, and I was like, what do you guys do in the summer? And they said, oh, well, we go to the community pool, or we go to the park. And I'm like, you guys don't have like a beach you go to? Oh, well, we'll go to like Wildwood for a week. And, from there, I started realizing how fortunate we were. And certainly with me working at the motel, and I would like to put a little bit of an asterisk. The job that I had was from 9 to 12 in the morning. So I had plenty of beach time afterwards. While I was getting a lot of, work ethic, and I was getting paid, and I woke up every day and I went to work, strategically, there was still, some sun and some beach time afterwards. But yeah, Point Pleasant Beach, home of Jersey Mike's, and, the original store is right down the street here. And a lot of those folks who were original Jersey Mike's, partners or kind of workers at the original store still live in town here, and it's really nice to run into them. And a lot of people say that if they leave, when they come back, it's like they never left. So,
right.
And I hope I never have to find out what that feels like.
Point Pleasant Beach is wonderful, and the restaurants and just the whole vibe is just it's a wonderful place. For those watching, it's nothing like the Jersey Shore or any of that. It's a wonderful family place. I don't want to sell it too much because we don't want too many people coming and visiting us here. So we'll keep it for ourselves a little bit. And funny, you mentioned before the Letterman show. My dad, while he was alive, he worked actually for a photo lamination company. He was the guy who would complete the backdrops for the Letterman show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he actually would deliver them, and he was the guy who made sure that the final product was up to snuff and perfect
with
for
the Brooklyn
backdrop.
Bridge. And
yes,
oh, wow.
That was my dad's the company that he worked for. And interesting, he was a construction worker. Learned the work ethic from him, and he did a job for a guy that owned a photo lab.
Yeah.
And he said, you're such a hard worker. I'd like you to come work for me. He's like, I don't know anything about this. He says, well, you don't have to. You're just going to put the final product together. And he just kept getting better and better jobs, and kind of brought our family from being very, very poor to more of a lower middle class society. So I understand growing up that way. So what's in the future? Coming from humble beginnings and now moving up, what's in the future for Samco and you?
Yeah, so what our charge is to continue to grow in athletics. Obviously, it's a very, very critical time in all of college athletics with NIL, and the house settlement is a big part of how we have to think at the university. So Samco's charge is to hopefully continue to add some additional assets and kind of monetize things in a different way, kind of add on some new experiences. And then, as our growth continues outside of athletics within university spaces is really the charge. And again, I think it's attainable. I think that there are some absolutely fabulous people at Rutgers, and to partner with them on kind of achieving this, I think is going to be really monumental, certainly at Rutgers, if not just the state, and how universities are thinking differently about how to capitalize on some of their really, really valuable assets. As for me, growing up, I actually thought I wanted to be a lawyer at first. I wanted to
Good choice. Good choice.
I wanted to be a sports agent. I wanted to be Scott Boras's right-hand person.
Right.
And then I got into baseball, and, I said, oh man, I can actually have a career here and not have to go to law school. So I don't know what I want to do still. As long as I continue to challenge myself is the most important thing, is to make sure that every day I'm not just going through the motions, that I'm actually excited to take on the good and the bad to make sure that we're solving for something that's really important. I do believe that in Samco, there's certainly a lot of challenges that we face every single day, whether it's internal challenges or external challenges, that continues to get me up every single day and really work towards what our mission is at Samco. But as long as I am continually growing, continually being challenged, I don't know what's next.
Just a couple questions, because you've been so successful. Nothing was handed to you through your career. Just if you could look back when you were that 13-year-old kid or 12-year-old kid, 14 years of age, working a few hours a day, 3 hours a day, and going to the beach. If you had a chance now to look back and say something, what advice would you give to your young self?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say that things that I thought were a big deal were not a big deal, and really just to kind of carry yourself through situations, whether it was when I was 12 years old and, there was too much garbage that I had to lug down to a laundry room, being a gopher at the motel, all the way until, just yesterday, is the things that we do are fun. Things that I've done in my career are really, really fun. I'm not curing cancer, right? And I think that the things that I had always thought, whether it was in my early career in Lakewood, that maybe a bathroom was overflowing and I needed to go get a mop and mop that up. I mean, those were the things that we did in baseball. And that is really where I know that I gained this incredible amount of experience. But, there's a solution to every problem. And I think that's the biggest thing, whether it's a massive problem or something that will be fixed in time, there is a solution to every problem. And I wish that I learned that. I didn't learn it the hard way, but I think that looking back on things where, you kind of maybe wanted to erupt on things,
Right.
that, just kind of taking a second, taking a step back, handle it with grace, and that it'll all be okay. So.
And what advice would you give to a young person now graduating high school or graduating college? Just some advice that you've learned, a life lesson, something that you could share.
So it comes up often, and I've referenced a lot of places that I've been, and I haven't been in a tremendous amount of places in my 25 years of working professionally. But I have such a core group of friends in minor league baseball. One works for the NBA, one runs the Super Bowl, one is very, very successful in professional sports, I should say. That core group, we were in the trenches with each other, trying to solve to get 8,000 people at every single home Lakewood Blue Claws game. And when I got to Rutgers, and by no fault of Rutgers, my first game, I told the story not long ago to our interim athletic director. When I got to Rutgers, it was we were playing Cincinnati, and we were in the AAC at the time. It was a transitional conference from the Big East before we went to the Big Ten, because I started at Rutgers in 2014. And I remember walking into what is now Jersey Mike's Arena. I remember walking into Jersey Mike's Arena because I had to work the game. And Mick Cronin, who is now the UCLA men's basketball coach, was at Cincinnati at the time. I remember walking on the court, and I was like, I've made it, right? I was like, I can't believe that I'm able to watch college basketball in person, and now this is my job, and I'm not watching, no disrespect to minor league baseball players, but, I had enough. At that point, I had seen 700 games plus, right? So I think I'd kind of paid my dues. I went over and I saw ketchup and mustard just all over the condiment stand in the lobby of Jersey Mike's Arena, and I started wiping it, right? I got a cloth and I started wiping because that was what I was supposed to do in Lakewood. And I got a tap on my shoulder, and it's our head of facilities, Rudy, and he said, "What are you doing?" "Hi, I'm Rudy, nice to meet you." And I said, "Well, it's a mess." And he was like, "That's my job," right? And I guess it arrived for me that I had all of these things that I wanted to do, and I was almost just like a Swiss Army knife in a way, that I had all of these things that I could do, but how to work together as a team. And this core group, back to my point on the core group that I have, friends for life that I met in Lakewood, I use this often, they just don't make them like us anymore. And my advice to the folks that are maybe in high school or in college, do that internship and don't sit at home and go to the beach during your summer. Do that internship and get that experience rather than, maybe slinging pizzas at Martell's over the summer. Get that experience and get that knowledge because, fearful is the wrong word. I just don't know if maybe some of that work ethic and some of that experience people just maybe take for granted and say, I don't need it anymore. And, when I'm 40 right now, when I'm 60 and I'm still working, I want to make sure that, people are thinking like that too, because that's what I want when I work. I want people who are team players. I want people who, it's not beneath them to go and wipe down a condiment stand, or it's not beneath them to make sure that there's no toilet paper at SHI Stadium or Jersey Mike's Arena on the floor, that when our fans, right, who we want to treat with TLC and we want them to keep coming back, that when they see, we don't handle our home like that, that's all part of what we do on game day. And I hope that there are more people like my core group that think that way, that, they're not beneath anything. So I hope that made sense.
No, it made sense. It makes complete sense because I can remember I graduated law school very young. I was 24.
Wow.
And I was in good shape, well built at the time. And at that time, we still used typewriters. Mm-hmm. And they were heavy. Mm-hmm. And the typewriters would have to be moved sometimes from the basement to the third floor. So you had to carry them up. They would ask me. And I never said, oh, no, I have a JD. I'm a doctor. Right. I can't do that. I just did it. And my philosophy always was, these people are paying my paycheck. Whether I'm carrying a typewriter or doing a legal brief, mm-hmm. I'm still getting paid for that time. And if that's what they need done, mm-hmm. why would I not do it? And to this day, I see something on the floor, I'll still pick it up.
Absolutely.
But there's people that will just walk over it, mm-hmm. pretend they don't see it. That's not my job. I can't do it. But it's that team aspect. Mm-hmm. So one last question and we'll end it. What characteristic or quality has taken you from basically a maid soap girl, what we used to call on the construction sites was a hump, because we'd hump things from one place to another on our back, to becoming a CEO and a president of Samco? What was it about you? What characteristic or characteristics do you think helped you achieve that?
Wow, I don't think I've ever been asked that question. I would like to say a bit of humility. I really don't like the spotlight. This is probably my first podcast ever. So traditionally, if someone were to ask me, if it weren't you, I'm not sure if I would do it. I really feel strongly about this team environment, and I was fortunate enough in the fall, I was nominated as, by NJ Biz as number 3 Power Education. And I still to this day don't know who nominated me, but I'm certainly very thankful and appreciative. But I really had a hard time with it. I like to be in the background. I like to have team success celebrated. I like to give other people gifts. I like to not receive gifts. I mean, some gifts are nice, don't get me wrong. But I think that for the most part, it's really just what I like to create is a team culture. And I think that I've done that in all of my stops is, like I said, nothing, I'm not above anything. And certainly on game day, you will see me pick up garbage still on the boardwalk, on the Rutgers boardwalk, mm-hmm. or on the concourse. But again, I think just the humbleness. There's a great Jay Wright quote, and it's escaping me right now. He talks about humility, and if you don't have humility, I think that you're not coachable. Something along those lines. And I really believe in not having the spotlight. So
I think that's some great advice, because as a CEO, everybody knows you're the boss. Mm. You're the president. You don't have to tell them, and you don't have to flaunt it. They all know. And if they see you doing something, they're going to follow that lead. If it's not too good for you to do as the president, CEO, mm-hmm. they're going to think, well, why can't we do the same?
Exactly.
So I think that's great. And I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. And I'm honored that this was the first one, because you have such an outgoing personality. One would never know that you're kind of shy and you really
Yeah.
want to be behind the scenes because you're great at what you do and your marketing and the way you project the image of Rutgers and Samco. You're
Thank you.
a fantastic front person for both organizations.
Thank you so much. This was very enjoyable, so I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.